Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Destiny video. So, us hunters have been purple Legolases for over 2 months now. And I'm sure a lot of us are going to have our preferred setups for the Nightstalker subclass at this point. But if you're starting a new hunter, or you're still kind of unsure on how to be the best Space Robin Hood you could possibly be, then look no further. Basically, in this video, I'm going to be giving my guide on how to use the Nightstalker subclass at its best. I'll be covering the PvE setup in this video, and then the PvP video should be up in a couple of days, assuming everything goes to plan. So without further ado, we've wasted enough time, let's jump straight in with PvE setup. So here we are in the Nightstalker subclass. We're going to start off with the grenades, and of course just sort of work our way along. So first up, here are the 3 grenades we have. First up, Spike Grenade. A grenade that attaches to any surface and emits a torrent of damaging void light. Void Wall Grenade, a grenade that creates a horizontal wall of burning void light. And Vortex Grenade, a grenade that creates a vortex damaging enemies inside. So all the grenades in this tree are very much zone control nades, in that rather than producing a big explosion of damage, they're more for locking down an area and blocking off doorways, and basically damaging anything that comes near it. And typically, it comes down to the Void Wall and the Vortex Grenades. Overall, I found myself using Void Wall more, probably because we've never really had a grenade like it, but also because I feel like it's the best one for dealing with multiple enemies, because of the way it covers a large horizontal area. And Vortex Grenades are better for stationary enemies. For example, Devil Walkers, big stationary bullet sponges. That's where Vortex shines. So typically in Destiny, you're going to be coming along more little moving targets rather than a big stationary bullet sponge. You're going to be coming across more ads than Devil Walkers typically. So personally, I think the Void Wall Grenade is the best option overall. Spike Grenades, I've just never found a use for them. I feel like you don't have to be as accurate with the other two, and I see what the Spike Grenade is meant to do, but I just feel like the other two do it better. So personally, Void Wall Grenade, followed very closely by Vortex Grenade, best options in this tree. So next up, the Jumping Tree, and we're not going to spend too long here because it's a bit of a no-brainer. As a hunter, you want to be using triple jump wherever you can. Just having that third jump, it's just invaluable, to be honest. You can just be more accurate where you're going. It doesn't even need explaining. Just having a whole extra jump really is the best option here, without a doubt. So next up, of course, Shadow Shot, the big one. First up, we have Bloodbound. Tethered enemies explode when killed. Damage to tethered enemies is shared to all. Black Hole, the Void Anchor has increased range, lasts significantly longer, and can tether more targets. Quiver, fire Shadow Shot up to 3 times. Void Anchors have reduced range. So in this tree, I can see Bloodbound being useful for wanting to take out a bunch of enemies quickly. But to be honest, Black Hole just does it better, in that it has the potential to tether more targets. It can reach further with increased range, it can tether more targets, and it lasts roughly 3 seconds longer. So I feel like Black Hole has the advantage here, because with the damage increase you get when enemies are tethered anyway, you're going to be taking them down probably just as quick as if you were using Bloodbound. And on top of that, because Black Hole has increased range and can tether more targets, you're going to have less chance of getting shot in the side by some random Dreg on the sidelines, because chances are with Black Hole, they're going to get tethered as well. So I feel like overall Black Hole really is the best option here, has the most advantages overall, and it's just the best in this tree. Quiver, we don't really need to talk about it. It's a PvP perk, really. It doesn't really have a place in PvE. It's invaluable in PvP, but having 3 shots, it just makes each arrow too weak in PvE, and it just isn't really worth the extra shots in PvE. So Black Hole is, in my opinion, the best option here. So next up, we have an interesting one, Smoke. The Smoke Grenade. First up, Envenomed, as a toxin that damages enemies within the smoke. Vanish and Smoke, you and your allies near smoke explosions vanish from sight. Snare, allows smoke to stick to surfaces, detonating when enemies are near. So Snare is good, but I've never just found a solid use for it. You can stick it indoors where enemies are going to come out of, in strikes, every time where the enemies are going to be coming from, but it just doesn't do enough damage without the toxins to warrant using it as a trap. So I can't really recommend Snare for endgame activity, since it just doesn't do the damage, and it just doesn't really have a place in high-level activities. So for me, it's a choice between Envenomed and Vanish. And it really depends what you're doing, to be honest. Most people I found go for Envenomed, just because with that added damage that you get with the toxin in it, it makes it into a mini grenade, literally. It's like having 1.5 grenades, because it does do a hefty amount of damage with Envenomed. But that's not a reason to underestimate Vanish and Smoke, because the ability to go invisible in high-level strikes if someone's died and you're in a pinch, just going invisible for a few seconds, it can help so much. It just gives you that little bit of downtime to, gather your thoughts, recover some health, move to a better position. get a revive off and all that. It's especially useful in something like Shield Brothers, where there's not much cover, and just having that few seconds of downtime can really help you out. So obviously, it's not as effective as Stalker for the Blade Dancer. Of course, Blade Dancers are the kings and queens of invisibility in Destiny. The Nightstalker's Vanish Smoke lasts for about 5 seconds, the Blade Dancer Stalker without Shadowjack lasts for about 7 seconds, and with Shadowjack, it lasts 10 seconds. Nevertheless, I found myself constantly switching up between Envenomed and Vanishing Smoke, depending on what I'm doing. Go with whatever suits the activity best. Sometimes you want to be doing extra damage, sometimes you want to be going invisible and getting those revives off. It just depends on what you're doing, so it's definitely a close tie between these two for this tree. So next up we have all this nonsense. So you may have noticed in my stats up here, I have personally gone with a high armor, high agility spec at the cost of recovery. And this one's really just down to personal preference, to be honest. Like, some people like to max out their agility and get high recovery on their hunters and have low armor. Some people like to go full armor and full recovery, since agility for the hunter is still going to be pretty good anyway. My logic with the armor agility thing is, I can be quick, I can be agile around the area, I can still take a beating and put in some good damage, and then once I've put in the damage and I've taken enough shots, I can run quickly back to cover and just hope that I have enough time to recover my health slowly. So that's my whole logic for that. This is a very personal choice thing, just depends how comfortable you are in PvE, so just go with whatever. This is my personal setup, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Just go with whatever you're personally comfortable with. So this tree is quite a good one. It's quite a balanced tree, I've found. So first we have Courage of the Pack. Killing tethered targets increases recovery and armor for you and nearby allies, stacks up to 5 times. Light of the Pack. Killing tethered targets creates orbs of light for your allies. Lockdown, grenade, and smoke effects last twice as long, allowing strong territory control. So Courage of the Pack is a good one. I can see it being useful in like areas where you're quite close together. For example, in the Sunless Cell Strike, I can imagine it be invaluable. Just having, constantly shooting your arrow, killing the tethered targets, getting recovery and armor boosts in places where your allies are close by you. I can see this being really, really useful, like, for example, the Sunless Cell Strike. But a lot of the time, you're not going to be super close to your allies. And as you can see, when they get too far away from you, it doesn't work. And it's not that far away, so you have to be quite close for it to even take effect. It makes sense, but it's quite unfortunate because you're not going to be getting the most out of the perk all the time. And because of that, it's still a really good perk and can be really useful, but unfortunately that probably makes it the weakest perk here for PvE. Lockdown is also, it's fantastic. Your grenade and smoke last twice as long, especially if you're using Envenomed. This can be really, really good for just putting in, twice as much damage essentially. And it's a very close second, but for me, I think Light of the Pack is the best option here. Having more orbs of light it can be invaluable at times. I think having this perk on, in my experience, it gives you about double the orbs, roughly, and especially since the Nightstalker only generates the small little orbs that don't give you as much, this can really be useful for just, like Nightstalker is supposed to be in PvE, being that supportive role for your teammates, and generating orbs is really what you want to be doing. Without it, you're only generating 4. With this perk on, you're generating like double the orbs, and I just think it's the best in this tree. But this tree is all very balanced, like all these perks are very good actually. You can't really go wrong with any of them, to be honest. This one, like I said, a little bit too weak since you have to be quite close to your allies, but honestly, this is a very good tree. There's a lot of good stuff here. So like I said before, this nonsense here, going for full toughness and agility. And finally, we have this entry here, which, to be honest, is a little bit hit and miss for PvE, I found. So first up we have Keen Scout. Sprint and sneak faster, gain enhanced tracker, and the ability to mark your targets you damage. Predator, the void anchors fired from Shadow Shot become traps that stick to surfaces and wait for prey, essentially like Snare for smoke. And of course, Shade Step. Double tap your crouch button to evade. So with this tree, none of them are particularly, game changing or required. Keen Scout I typically use in patrolling because, you can move around quicker, you can sprint faster, materials and chests show up on your radar. So for patrolling, this one is quite nice. But, for high-level endgame activity, there's just no reason to use it, really. Predator, it's in the same boat as Snare for me. Like, I've never found a use for having these sort of trap-type things. I can see them being useful, once again, for sticking in a doorway where enemies are going to come from. But I just don't think that really warrants a perk in a subclass. I've never really found a use for these trap-type things, so I can't really recommend Predator. So typically in like strikes or anything other than patrol in PvE, I typically just go with Shade Step just because it can be useful every now and then for getting back into cover a little bit quicker. It's fun to like mess around with while you're waiting between waves of enemies, or while you're waiting for your mate to go get his black spindle from his vault. You know, it's fun to mess around with, can help you out every now and then, but like I said, nothing in this tree is particularly valuable in PvE, so typically I just go with Shade Step just because it's the most fun and it can help you out every now and then. Like I said, getting into cover a little bit quicker. The other two just don't really have a place in PvE for me personally. So that's about it, I think. So that is my best setup for the Nightstalker in PvE. I'll just let you observe and gaze at its majesty. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed, hopefully you found this useful. Like I said, a lot of this is like opinion, playstyle, preferability based, you know, whatever you like, whatever you're comfortable with. A lot of it, that is. Some of them are just like, you know, triple jump. That's just, you know, why would you pick better directional control? No one picks that. So, but yeah, a lot of it is sort of opinion based. So if you have different choices that you think are slightly better, please leave in the comments, because, you know, I'm always up for a discussion about Destiny, and, you know, we can discuss that in the comments. So if this has helped out anyone in any way, shape or form, then awesome. You know, that was the intention. And if you've just generally enjoyed the video, then even better. So like I said, the PvP setup for Nightstalker should be up in a couple of days, assuming I have enough time. I'm making a separate the reason I'm making a separate video for it is because if I put them both into this video, it would make it a bit long. People might get bored. You know, they might only watch it halfway through. You know, and I don't want to bore people, do I? And, you know, I just feel like splitting it into 2 different parts would be a bit better for everyone and just make it a little bit cleaner, a little less cluttered, and a little more sort of streamlined. So please don't call me a view whore in the comments, because, you know, it's tough out there, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, but, you know, nevertheless, hopefully you've enjoyed anyway. Hopefully you enjoy the PvP one that should be up soon. And yeah, hopefully I just see you in my next video in general. So, thank you very, very much for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye for now.